It is my pleasure to introduce our second reader, James Hoch. We were lucky enough to have him here, I think 6 years ago, let's say, when his previous book came out. James teaches at Ramapo College and is a guest lecturer in the MFA program at Sarah Lawrence College. His books are A Parade of Hands, Miscreants, which we were lucky enough to get to hear him read from. The new book, Last Pawn Shop in New Jersey. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got the iconic kind of Ferris wheel on it, as well as a chapbook, which if you don't know what that means, it's just sort of like a little bit of a shorter book. It's like the novella version of the novel in the poetry world, called Radio Static. His work has been published in numerous journals: Poetry, New Republic, Washington Post, Slate. It's just too many really to list, and has been included in Best American Poetry of 2019. During the TV interview that we do prior to this, I got to hear James talk about how he thinks of his first three books as a trilogy, in the sense of the first one's really looking back to when he was younger. And then in the next, Miscreants, it's sort of the things you get up to in your youth. That's the title, Miscreants. And then this last one finds us, Last Pawn Shop in New Jersey, with a speaker who is himself now a father and has a son. The book really spoke to me on a real personal level because it's dealing with grief. And I have had some grief in my life of late. But I feel like we all have. I just feel like COVID, everything that's been going on in the larger community, so many people have lost, I think, in so many different ways, that a book that speaks to grief at this moment culturally, I think, carries a lot of weight. And in part, I love this book because, as was the title, actually, we talked in, that you read a little bit in one of the first poem, Prayer for the Little Exhaustion of Light, that it's not, these poems are not just about the exhaustion of grief, but they're about that action of prayer, which is that reaching out, that asking, saying, this is not going to take me over. There's hope in prayer. And I think it's a wonderful book in that it offers us that. And me personally, I could use some hope right now. I'm good with that. So it is my pleasure to welcome James Hoch back to the mic at Brookdale.
Pine Barrens. That's the name of this poem. So what if, fascinated with the Zippos, flint and glick, flick and click of fondness for accelerants, we lit a few trees ablaze? So what if we left a few of us behind, drying out from a stew of booze and Percocet lifted from Scully's cabinet? Where else could we have welcomed such plunderings? Iron dank cedar ponds and yellow roads meandering through thick black pine, scrub oak as dark and thorny and Blair Witch Project as one gets in the wilds of South Jersey, where all prank and crank we blew our bodies lunar and fed ourselves open sky, a loon's paltry cry, its song, the instrument of longing, the place of displacement, transmogrifying, absurd. We fed it everything. It took it. And yeah, smoked, dropped, and lie on the hood of a 66 Ford Galaxy. We let the moon paint through smelter plume, smudged in burnt needle, in marrow of bones split by blue flame. In the bongy rafters of nostalgia, what shall we say we saw? When we cured wonder, our bodies a low bog of ransacked joy, where hithering hurt begot salve, before we dragged ourselves home and plummeted back into the work of being where we came from. How shall we call the orphaned self, the one being devoured, what we took for pleasure? Friends, it's been way too long. Find me again, stacking our packs and dreams like kindling in those body-strewn woods. You will know my ragged smell, slouchy in the paunch, singing the song of keep singing, the meaning of touch, more touch, the meaning of mouth, more mouth. Self-portrait is the last pawn shop in New Jersey. Lately, I've not been feeling myself. I walk around like a figure missing its ground. I see a braid of smoke a hand passes through and envy hands. How smoke stays on skin, the faint hairs of a cheek a hand brushes against. It used to be enough to be the blown engine of a VW outside of Durango. Whiskey we killed watching our father die. A bad painting I loved because our mother loved bad paintings without irony. Lead sinkers in the gray bay of self. There, I'd say, strapped to the mast of a tall ship in a Turner painting, or a grip dangling from the center pole of a circus tent above a troop of dachshunds trying to find the tiny pedals of tricycles. I collected myself like I was vying to be the last pawn shop in New Jersey. Now I am not even a whir of gnats on a dirt road, a threadbare cloud on a ridgeline, the steam riding off an old man stepping out of a sauna. Days, nothing seems to tie me to me. The more I live, the more the rucksack lightens. The more I can't find myself in the mirror of the world in Rome storefronts as if I've misplaced myself. When I was a kid, I used to be a kid. I kept, nobody believes me. I used to keep a Pringles can filled with volcano rocks someone once sold as Apache tears. One weird-ass way of marketing pain. Gone now as the name of the boy I bailed out for stealing CDs from Walmart for the girl he crushed on, which is not really a crime, I explained to the cops. The girl loved Stevie Nicks so much I found her stoned under blackberry bramble listening to Landslide on a Walkman. Perhaps it matters to say they were Apache or Pueblo, Inde or Kiowa, that they were minor thieves flung far from home. Perhaps all they wanted was the ground inside each other. But even as I say Landslide, Walkman, I feel the scree of words, the pawn shop emptying out. The things that made me are ether now, as clear as those who went and died and took what mattered. Bodies, a joke, a late meal that wove itself into morning, as if they had packed for the afterlife. And empty and whole and empty. The air inside me tastes like leaving, and leaving tastes like rain that never comes, which I love like breath on a window, like someone taking some time, some pleasure to draw a heart, a face. No wonder I am marveling over the demo crew slaying each other. Fuckwad, lug nut, waste of skin, cuts, we used to call them. Nicking wing, heel, gutting into laughter, then tender, tender, as one with angels or dogs, where the wound is transom. The words hold them to the ground, and I am whatever hovers when they go. Dedication. This poem is to my son, who I worry into a misshapen form of worry, and to worry itself, how it hangs like a blanket over the head of a horse. Why do they blanket the heads of horses standing alone in a field, not seeing, their skins seeking each other's aloneness? I have no idea. I have never owned a horse, though property is no giver of ideas. Forgive me, my mother has died. I'm trying to understand. So my son understands why his father's saying nothing in the car, the yard, at the table. My mother has died. Do you know? It's like standing in a field. Then it's like the field being gone. No one notices in the clumsy fog. Do you see there is no distance? She is not a thing. There are no figures for this grief. The air tastes of ground. Have you ever lost all context? The other day, walking across the room, my son looked at me like he was eyeing a sick planet, then put his arms around his weeping father, as if holding a planet might heal it. I want to thank him, but only have this fucking poem. A raft made from the skins of horses. It is wrong he feels asked to wade. His love just wants to rush out. A busted hydrant, a forever sunny day. I'd like to say it gets easier. All right, polycardial. All right, so a gremlin is a car, or was a car. It was a really bad car. Take on Me, I Melt with You. Anybody from the 80s? All right. And I think that's it. That's all you got to know. Polycardial means, right, multiple hearts. You don't have to be a cephalopod. You don't have to be a cephalopod to understand it's good to have a spare, hidden somewhere in the body's crags. You don't need to possess random superpowers nor free dive in Arctic rifts. No, you don't have to play emotional whack-a-mole. I mean, who couldn't use a wonderfully engorged backup, a blue reliever to answer the hunger of being human? You never know. You never know. But spares? Hard to come by. Can't score them in the East Village anymore. Not dozing on a bench in Tompkins Square Park. Not even Brooklyn. Forget Brooklyn. Imagine. Some days you slump in the paunch of a lawn chair, sipping gin and tonic, and a gremlin goes by, and you dream the smell of your teenage self and herself, how you took time, how she showed you. Kissing in an orange beater that forever faintly stunk of oil and singed carburetor hose and stale Parliament cigarettes. Her car, her mouth. It was good, right? In your rush, you were kind, right? All those fantasies are now memories. That's the beauty of getting old. They float in a softly lit aquarium exhibit you've curated your whole life. And you're almost returned to 1982. Yellowy street lamp night cassettes playing Take on Me. I melt with you. Why are we equal parts tender and not? Perhaps we were once polycardial. One heart of air, the other air that burns. Maybe one burst and cauterized the other. Or the humans exhausted all the feelings, so ran to the fjord and threw our wasted heart into the sea, which might explain squid and octopi, and why we are lousy at swimming, and why your heart thaws in the sink of your old, tired, weak, worn-out body, which no longer sleeps, which wakes and stirs the warm second you hear your wife open the screen door, or children shrieking in the yard as they gather jarfuls of fireflies. Listen, let the air be an ocean. Let the ocean occupy your tongue. So I pulled into a gas station and I said, how you doing? The guy pumping the gas, and he said, old, tired, weak, worn out. I'm like, fill it up, regular. Thanks for the line. So I got in the poem. Old, tired, weak, and worn out. All right. Just a poem or two more here. I'll read you one line from this poem called Primitivo Negativo. We are out of wine, and that's a problem. In Puglia or Pittsburgh. That's all you needed to know about that poem. Parking garage. In the end, you have to go home. You have to leave the hospital room where you stand bedside, though there's no bed anymore, which an hour ago was hers. In the end, nothing belonging to nobody. Hers no longer hers. You must head down the ramp, through the sliding glass doors and cheap fluorescence of a gray garage, and find the car she parked somewhere weeks ago. Which level? Which space? You ask someone in scrubs for help, and she can see you are not right, and gentle with your not rightness. You are saying nothing new. You are a son. Your mother has died. All you need to do is find the car. But you can't even. And break again. It will be this way a while. Driving down the turnpike, tired of feeling rented. Chemo, urine, talc. Stubborn in the leather. You tell yourself, your body needs to be yours again. Then relief. guilt, a profusion. But all that's fiction. A person you have yet to be. Right now, grief is simple. Find the car. Let the engine run some. Take care not to damage anything on the way out. One line from the poem Small Orange. Cool, small sun. I got this. That's it. That's all you get. You get one line. This is where we are. Love the cold. I should just read. That's how I should read poetry. That's how we all should do our poetry readings. Just one line from one poem. You need the rest of it. The listening. This is the last poem in the book and the last poem I'll read. Thank you all for coming. I think we're answering questions. Is that right? And another round of applause. Right? Terrific. Terrific. Thank you for reading. Yeah. Beautiful poems. Listening. I had a great friend. She's alive. I had a great friend. Snow again. I can't hear it falling in birches, yard, garden beds, heady tufts and root down of winter carrots, though I stare out there as if listening to the making. The way a kid, I'd rise in the middle of the night, looking for my father, the house, the usual dark I'd sleepwalk through. Eventually, someone would find me sitting on the living room floor, W sitting, snow on television, or staring canvas blank out a window. Snowman, they'd call, nudge me back, silence cracking like a crocus. The reveal, all that breaking, a kiss. I don't know if I loved anything more. When my father died, a backhoe broke the sky open, which filled with crows, and a dusting coated the cars lining the cemetery road. Snow falling on my father's death day. A little much, even for me, so prone to melancholy, which is a way of sketching your loss. Years ago, I had a friend who used to say, love is a kind of opening. She had a freezer stashed with vodka and chocolate, a way of making me crash on her couch. My friend was talking about trees, what we know, what we feel, how they conspire each other. I was afraid my body would fly open, a blizzard of wings, that if I gave up grieving, he'd die all over again, or I'd die without something to grieve. She must have known this too. How winter shuts a mouth down, then more mouth, more mouth. Some days the light right, I walk an hour or so into a stand of birches, the space between trees, and it's like the trees pass through me. Ghosts of my breath, my father, my friend, sitting on the couch in her apartment, all there, I hear them talking and want to slip off my shoes. Snow, listening, the nerve to stay a while. It's exactly like she was saying. All righty. Thank you for coming.